When Naughty Dog released the first trailer for their upcoming game, Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, it did not go over very well amongst gamers, as you can see on the official Naughty Dog YouTube channel. The video got ratioed with only 77,000 likes to 201,000 dislikes. Not necessarily the worst ratio in the world, but still, it's pretty bad for this. But more interesting enough, when it came to this trailer's release on the channel, was that they turned off the comments pretty much immediately upon the release of it, which suggests to me that they were expecting the reception to this to be negative. Now, I would think if you're a company producing something for an audience that you shouldn't expect a negative reaction to it, but maybe I was just looking a little bit too much into this until about a week or so ago when we got this story coming out for the lead actress of the game saying that Neil Druckmann basically put her through a type of boot camp in order to prepare her for the Backlash, which that further kind of cements the idea that yes, they were expecting the reaction to this game to be negative. Why do they think it's going to be negative? Because Naughty Dog has produced some good games in the past, but they've burnt a lot of bridges with gamers when they started falsely copyright striking YouTube channels. And also Neil Druckmann basically just saying that he cares more about pushing his own personal political agenda as opposed to trying to produce something that people actually want to play. And that's not being hyperbolic or anything like that, because according to this recent interview with him, that's essentially what he's saying here. Neil Druckmann says he's ignoring Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, Backlash, and staying the course. Yes, he's not concerning himself with what the audience wants from his games. He's basically saying like, yeah, I know they're saying that this is what they want, but I'm ignoring that because I'm just doing what I want, because that's a real smart move for some reason. Neil Druckmann doesn't seem interested in your opinion, and he's not hiding it, particularly when it comes to Backlash against Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. As creative director at Naughty Dog, Druckmann has long styled himself as a bold auteur, willing to take creative risks regardless of how they're received. And while some of the creative risks from Naughty Dog's, not necessarily Neil Druckmann's, but from Naughty Dog, have been paying off for them, a lot of the stuff that's happened that basically Neil Druckmann has been responsible has not been as well received amongst gamers. Speaking on the Sacred Symbol Plus podcast, Druckmann was asked about the mounting criticism around Intergalactic, a game still shrouded in mystery but already facing widespread skepticism from fans and industry commentators. Rather than address the concerns, Druckmann dismisses the conversation entirely. I don't know if there's much I could add to that conversation, to be honest, he said. There's stuff happening right now with media that you have to, I feel, ignore for the most part and just stick to your guns and do what you believe in. And I feel like that's how I would want artists to carry themselves. Now, that's fine if you're not necessarily producing anything for public consumption, but if you're producing something that's supposed to be a form of entertainment and it's supposed to have a target audience, then you should listen to what your target audience is actually saying and what their concerns are. Even if you don't necessarily plan on doing anything to resolve that, you should at least fake it or act like that you care about what your audience thinks, you know, the paying customer. If you would have said something about the lines of, yes, we're paying attention to the criticism and we understand why people are skeptical, but give it a chance. We think people will really enjoy what we have in store for them. If he would have just said something like that, I think that would have alleviated a lot of concerns, as opposed to basically saying, well, if you don't like it, don't play it, because that's kind of what this comes across as. And we know in the gaming industry, that's basically the kiss of death, even for major franchises, to try to propose that people should just not play your game if they're not happy with what they're seeing. And that might actually happen when it comes to this game. He went on to describe Intergalactic in glowing terms. I'm very, very excited for this game. He said, maybe as excited as I've been for any game. It's very cool. It's the deepest gameplay we've ever done, and I can't wait to show it off. Yeah, of course, he's going to try to kind of hype it up a little bit. I mean, it's his game. He's doing exactly what he wants, not necessarily what the paying customer wants, but what he wants nonetheless. So, of course, it's something that'll appease him. It's just a matter of whether it'll actually appease the customer. To longtime fans of The Last of Us, Druckmann's attitude may sound familiar. When The Last of Us Part 2 launched in 2020, it quickly became one of the most divisive releases in gaming history. A major narrative pivot involving a character named Abby and the abrupt removal of fan favorite protagonist Joel left many players stunned, confused, and outright angry. Rather than engage with criticism or consider fan feedback, Druckmann took the same approach he's expressing now: ignore the backlash, focus on the art, and let the chips fall where they may. It was actually a lot worse when it came to The Last of Us Part 2. Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog were falsely copyright striking YouTube channels that were critical over his game, or talking about the rumors circulating around the release of that game, something that's actually illegal for them to do. And that, I think, contributed a large part to why there's so much negativity surrounding Naughty Dogs, and perhaps why they expected negativity surrounding this launch trailer. But still, that's not what they're doing right now, is not a good way to actually approach it, especially since there's a lot of criticism that doesn't necessarily have to do with Last of Us Part 2, but just has to do with how they feel this game is kind of going and why they're not happy with that. But Neil Druckmann doesn't concern himself with that because he doesn't care about your opinion as an audience. And then it kind of goes down into this article talking about the lead actress for this game, where she shared this, because like I said before, how she was supposed to be told on how to deal with the backlash and other things like that. What doesn't help is when you're sharing a photo like this, directly antagonizing people. And even though I think it's kind of funny the way they, I like the style of this, and I think the kind of play on words was funny in this, it's not a smart move from your lead actress of your game to directly antagonize who's supposed to be your paying customers. If you were to actually put her through that boot camp, so to speak, on how to deal with backlash, what you shouldn't do first and foremost is to antagonize the audience. If anything, you should try to be a little bit more grateful. And I would actually tell a professional company that what you should do is try to act like the audience matters, as opposed to just saying, we don't care what you think because we're just going to do what you want and get wrecked or whatever. Druckmann repeated insistence that fan feedback doesn't seem to matter to him is concerning. That mindset isn't just present in gaming, it's also baked into the Last of Us television adaptation on HBO, which is now entering a third season and will focus entirely on the character of Abby. Despite the avalanche of criticism that greeted Abby's debut in the game, Druckmann and showrunner Craig Mazin are moving full speed ahead with Abby's story. And then this kind of talks about how the show for The Last of Us has kind of fallen off as opposed with the ratings, and especially in the key demographic range. And we saw that when it comes to the first season and the second season. The second season premiered with a higher viewership, but then it started dropping off with audience scores on sites like Rotten Tomatoes also declining, to kind of coincide with what gamers felt years ago when The Last of Us Part 2 came out. People loved the first game. They didn't like what they did with the second game. They translated that to the small screen with the Last of Us series. People liked the first season, didn't really like the second season, so I'm not expecting a whole lot coming out of the third season if they're going to maintain the course, which looks like that's what they're doing with it. And yeah, I'm not really expecting a whole lot from that. But one of the things that we've seen in recent years when it comes to major franchises, even for video games, when they're trying to push an agenda and put that above everything else, and they don't even concern themselves with what the audience wants, we've seen even major franchises fail, let alone a new IP like the Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. Now, Last of Us Part 2 did find some success because it was following The Last of Us Part 1, and as you can see from the Metacritic score, it was widely popular with a 9.2 user score on Metacritic. Compare that to Last of Us Part 2 with only a 5.8. So that's a significant drop in people enjoying Last of Us Part 2 compared to Part 1. But that game was still able to find some success because it was following the first game that was widely popular and it was a highly anticipated game. Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, doesn't get that benefit of the doubt. It's a brand new IP. The only thing that it has going for it is that it's coming from Naughty Dog, which has a decent track record under its belt, but not under Neil Druckmann's sole leadership at the company. So right now, they're basically just trying to bank everything on Neil Druckmann's credibility in the game industry, and amongst gamers, that's pretty lacking. So I'm not expecting a whole lot from Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet right now, especially if Neil Druckmann continues to speak like this about the paying customer. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.